Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
What's up?
Yeah,
We're here
we are
to tell you about serial
killers.
I'm T,
I'm Jay.
and if you're new here, welcome. If you're not, hi.
Hello.
You know these voices always are here to bring you the good stories.
Yeah.
But before we get into the good stories, I want everybody to say hello to Jay because he came back from his 2-week adventure in Europe.
But y'all probably just listening to the podcast.
You wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't even know.
We're that good. You wouldn't even know that he was gone. So he went to Oktoberfest in Germany.
That I did. Not just Oktoberfest, but Oktoberfest in Munich.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, because I did not, it's a big ass event. Like he took pictures. It's a ginormous event. And very, very asses to elbow, as he was saying. Like you're
personal space does not belong at Oktoberfest.
Yeah. So if anybody has Oktoberfest on their bucket list,
prepare yourself. Stand really close to people who smell like alcohol all day long.
Well, and he also said that the drinking age over there is 18. So there's a lot of young drinkers, which whatever. I mean, we've
all been there drinking, but it's just weird to see it in public, like not a big thing. And they definitely don't have the tolerance that, per se adults would have.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, definitely different. Luckily I was there kind of earlier in the morning through the afternoon. So I wasn't around to really see the drunk people towards the evening because I guess it gets really bad.
But he did say
they actually have a hill that's by there. I can't remember. There's a specific name for the hill, but it's where all the people go pass out.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Like you just go lay on the ground?
Yeah, basically.
What?
Yeah, and it's like this hill. All these people are passed out on it. Like it's a thing.
Tell me that's not weird. That's weird. I mean, it's not weird.
That's normal.
That's just the way they do things. He also told me that the waitresses, or I don't know if they're considered waitresses, but there's really seriously people who walk around carrying how many mugs do you think they had in a hand?
I mean, probably anywhere from 6 to 8 in each hand.
Carrying these gigantic
huge mugs
steins
full
of beer.
Yeah.
So that's a real thing, which was kind of interesting. He also brought home his own beer stein that he bought as a souvenir, and it's huge.
Well, and mine's not even one of the bigger ones. Mine's probably the medium size.
I mean, it's huge, and I'm just like, holy shit. And he's like, no, and that's what he said. It's a medium size one.
And if you want to go there, you got to kind of be prepared for what it is. So they have tents, is what they call it, but they're buildings, right? That the events happen in, and each one is owned by a different beer company or whatever, and you go in there and that's where they bring you the big beers. Now you can get beers and stuff outside and you can get food, but this is where the singing and all the crazy stuff happens, but you have to get there early to try to get in these tents. The line for these tents were crazy.
That's
and
insane.
When you get inside, it's bench seating, so you just jam yourself in between two people. It's crazy, but it's definitely
it's
thing.
An experience.
It's for the people here in the States. We have
shit Oktoberfest, Leavenworth.
But we have county fairs. So imagine a county fair, but then times it by 10. So it is huge. They have rides. They have very scary rides that I would never...
carnival rides.
You remember how I was giving you the story about the swings that went up high in the air, and I was like, ha, ha, ha. Mm-hmm. They were so much taller. No, these were actually that tall. I'm talking probably 200 to 300 feet in the air.
Ooh, no,
on swings. And it was nuts. They had Ferris wheels, which is cool, whatever, but they have other rides that are just... the thing is like every ride was geared to make somebody throw up is what I felt like. Like, here, have some beer and
all like
some
spinny rides.
some like Wiener Schnitzel and get on this spinny ride. Like that's literally what it was. And you know, on TikTok there's one that you see all the time. It's where people get on like a moving sidewalk and it's going uphill and people eat shit on that. And yeah, we stood there and watched that for a while. It was pretty funny, but no, it's definitely experience. A lot of people dress up, lederhosen, for the boys, full outfits. I'm not sure what the outfits are called for the girls, but it's that typical dress.
Yeah.
But it was everywhere. Like we rode the Deutsche Bahn, which is the train, down from Frankfurt. So it's like a 3-hour train ride, and the train was just full of all these people dressed up going down there.
Okay, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, but
not my cup of tea.
But there were other cities that we would stop in to let people out, more people get on, that had their own Oktoberfest as well, that maybe weren't as busy, but Munich is like the main one. And from what I heard, last year over 7 million people went through the Munich one.
That's crazy.
Which is just
But I mean,
crazy.
it's an experience, right?
You don't got to pay to get in.
It's one of those things that Jay told me that he thinks I would really like going to Europe. He went to Germany, Amsterdam, and Portugal. And so he told me, I think you'd really like to go on one of these times when he goes there for business. Like, maybe I'll go with him. I don't know if I can handle the plane ride, but we'll see. And he said he thinks I would actually enjoy being over there, but maybe not Oktoberfest. I don't like big groups of people. And so I don't think I could handle being in a big group of people like that. And fun fact, the day after Jay and his coworkers got back from Oktoberfest, it pops up on my phone that they had
it was all over the news.
They had actually closed Oktoberfest for a while because there was a bomb threat.
Well, and just outside, apparently, there was a guy that was in a standoff and like blew up part of his house. Like there was a whole deal.
Yeah,
that
so
happened there. So
thank goodness he was there the day he was, because oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But yeah, it's and to be to correct something from earlier, we say Amsterdam like it's the country. Like I wasn't in the city Amsterdam. I always say Amsterdam like, oh, I was in Germany, Amsterdam, and
the Netherlands
and Portugal, but I was in the Netherlands.
I just say Amsterdam because he was at the Amsterdam airport.
Yeah, we were next to Amsterdam in Haarlem is what it's called, and so.
Well, there you go.
We went into Amsterdam, which was pretty cool to see, but Haarlem was definitely a cool area, somewhere I'm like, yeah, I could live out here. It's pretty dope.
See, so for all of you international listeners, because I know we got you, if you're from Germany, the Netherlands, or Portugal, Jay really likes your guys' countries.
Yeah, we were in Porto.
He would be fine living in any one of them, so bravo to y'all.
Yeah, we were in Porto, in Portugal. So the city that we were in is called Porto. And we started off, so one of the days we kind of had a free day, and we started off like downtown Porto at a church, and we were just like, oh look, there's another cool church, let's walk over there. Oh, there's this, let's walk over there. And so we just kind of walked around a bunch, and they had a lot of festivities going on, a lot of like outdoor booths and stuff. Very touristy part of the town. There was a lot of like tour buses full of people and stuff walking around down there. And then we're like, hey, the water doesn't look too far from here, let's walk down there. Yeah, we didn't realize we're up like on top of a cliff basically, so we had to walk all the way down to the water across the river, and it was a walk, let me tell you that. I definitely have pictures looking back up at the church we started at, like we came from all the way up there, but really cool place. The one thing I can say, and I know probably the people that live there don't agree with it, maybe they do, but the amount of cool graffiti that I saw in Germany, Netherlands, and Portugal, I mean, there's so much talent there. Yeah. It is everywhere. I don't mind graffiti as long as it's done tastefully and not on like historical buildings and stuff, like be respectful. But some of the talent these people have of their graffiti, like it was pretty amazing to see.
Nice.
So
very nice. So we wanted to recap you a little bit on what Jay's been going, what Jay went, where he went. And I know we're talking about true crime, but a lot of you listeners are from the United States, and I'm venturing to guess that most of us have probably not been to these places. So, it's kind of cool just to hear something a little different. That's all.
Now I've been to both sides. I've been to the Asia side. I've been to the Europe side. And I just got to find something in the middle.
You've been to Italy too, which is part of the Europe side,
Yeah.
right? So I mean,
Yeah, there's possibilities for...
he's a world traveler, folks.
India and Indonesia as well. So
there you go.
That'll be the middle. But people have... And I'm like, how could I plan this? Because I want to fly to like Europe for like a couple of days to do what I need to do there. But then fly to Vietnam from there and do a couple of days there and then fly home. And then I can say I've traveled around the world.
Okay. 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 So that was a little recap of where Jay has been for the last 2 weeks. So now we're going to get into the thick of it, which always starts with, what are you drinking today?
Ooh. Well, I finished my Starbucks coffee.
He did. He drank his Americano right ass quick.
Yep. So now I'm just drinking an espresso caramel espresso with some Chobani creamer in it.
Cool.
Over ice.
Yeah. And I am actually drinking a coconut not coconut flavored, a coconut milk latte. No flavor, just coconut milk. That's it. Iced.
I ain't there yet.
I got to be there because the coconut milk at pretty much everywhere is sweetened, and then it's too sweet for me to drink if I do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we be drinking today. And now...
who are we talking about?
That is the question of the day. So we are talking about Michael Hughes. Michael Hughes is known as the Southside Slayer.
Ooh, I thought you were going to hit me with the Southside Strangler.
No. He has 8 victims. Dates of murders are between 1986 and 1993, and this was located in Los Angeles, California. His method of murder, though, was strangulation, so he could have been the Southside Strangler.
But I think that name was already coined for somebody
Probably. And a characteristic of his murder is rape. So a little bit of background on Michael. So Michael was born in 1958 in Michigan. And his father actually leaves the family fairly shortly after he is born. So it leaves his mother to raise him and his sister on her own. And at 5 years old, his mother, his sister, and him, they end up moving to California. And he grows up in Pasadena, California. And fun fact about Pasadena, when I was a young child, my dad worked in Pasadena, just so everybody knows. So he grows up in Pasadena, California, and he actually ends up attending a Los Angeles high school, though. So Los Angeles is not super close to Pasadena, so that's kind of interesting to me. At least
if you're on the edge of Pasadena,
I mean, I guess maybe. Yeah, I don't know exactly where in Pasadena, but there.
I mean, mile wise, this is the funny thing. All the time I spent down in LA, mile wise, Pasadena's not very far. Traffic time wise, it's like an hour to get there.
Well, and
but it's only like 10 miles.
Well, and
like
maybe
that.
That's why, because this is like in the if he's high school age, it's probably the 70s by this point.
Yeah.
So maybe there's not as much traffic as there is now. So Michael does end up growing up in a really dysfunctional family. His mother is an alcoholic, and she would regularly beat him and his sister. And allegedly, at some point, Michael's sister became pregnant. And his mother forces Michael's sister to have an abortion of this baby that Michael's mother performs herself in front of Michael and, of course, the sister. So Michael's claim is that not only were they physically abused by their mother all the time, but she did things like performed her own abortion on her own daughter.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I don't remember when Roe v. Wade was put into law, so I don't even know. I don't know when abortions became legal, so there is a chance that maybe it was illegal at the time and she just performed it herself. But that's how people fucking die. Okay, yeah, that's how people fucking die.
Bruh, and this is, what, in the 70s? You didn't have Google. It's not like you could look it up. So
yeah, I mean...
I think that gives an...
to be fair...
There, but I was going to say, it probably gives a new meaning to coat hanger.
No, it's true, though. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what they used to do a lot of the times. Or they would do things like make them drink, poisonous things that would kill the baby. Yeah. And it's just like, it's also just horrific to a woman. But more importantly, she was upset that her daughter was pregnant. She chose to do that herself. Nobody said that the daughter wanted it. It was literally she forced the daughter to do this. Now, during his teenage years, he was hospitalized multiple times for nervous breakdowns as well. So he obviously was having a hard time living his life. Now, in 1976, Michael is now 17 years old, and he actually enlists in the Navy. And he works as a shipmate for a few months, and then he eventually works his way up to a gunner's mate. And, you know, like, I just feel like in the 70s, that's what everybody did. I feel like all the boys, like, when they turned 17, 18 years old, they started to enlist in the military of some sort. He ends up leaving the Navy. And after he gets out of the Navy, he spends a small time in jail for theft and perjury. He was also reportedly married for a very short time after he gets out of the Navy. So he moves back to, and he ends up moving back to California because during his time in the Navy, he wasn't in California. So when he moves back to California, he actually ends up living on the streets. And I don't know if that's because he chose not to go live with his family, or if his family didn't want him there, or if he had no connection. But for whatever reason, he lives on the streets and he sells drugs to support himself living on the streets. And he ends up meeting this group of guys that also live on the streets, that also do drugs and sell drugs. And they decide they're going to travel together. And they make their way through Oakland. They go through Long Beach and multiple other cities, and they end up ending their travels in Los Angeles. So he's literally going through California with this group of people, selling drugs, living on the streets, living his life.
Riding the old caravan.
In January of 1986, a girl named Yvonne Coleman, who was 15 years old, she skips school to hang out with her boyfriend. Now she's on her way home from hanging out with her boyfriend, where she is then raped and murdered. And her body is found by a barbecue pit a few blocks away from where she was raped and murdered. Now, at that time, Michael is currently living in this area, but he's not somebody that they would like suspect of anything. The medical examiner does find grass had been shoved in her mouth and down her throat as well. But basically it came out that she had been strangled. Then 5 months later, the nude body of Verna Williams is found on an elementary school grounds. She had been also strangled to death. What's fucked up about this one is her body was left in a stairwell of the school. Now, for those of you who do not know California, most of their schools is outside. Like, their classrooms are not outside. But as far as like when you walk from classroom to classroom, it's outside. So it's not like this person went into the school, killed this woman, and then left her inside the school on a stairwell. The stairwells are outside. Most of them are outside. You literally, like, when I was growing up, I went to school in California because I lived there. And my elementary school, like kindergarten elementary school, was literally outside, where when you would walk to lunch, you'd walk outside. When you walk from your classroom to music class, you walk outside. It's not like an indoor thing. I want people to understand that this isn't like she wasn't killed inside the school. So she was killed on the school grounds, and then her body was left on the stairwell at this school, and students found her.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
And she was, again, nude, and she had been strangled to death. And there were some students that came across her body. Now, in August of 1990, a woman named Deanna Wilson, who was 30 years old, was raped and strangled in her garage. She did have a child, and her child was actually sleeping in the room next to the garage, but was unharmed. But she was found in her garage. Then on September 23rd of 1992, the body of Teresa Ballard is found in Jesse Owens County Park. Again, strangled. June of 1993, the body of Deborah Jackson, who was 32, was found in a trash bin. She had also been strangled. Then October 5th of 1993, the body of a 38-year-old woman named Brenda Bradley. She is found in Culver City. You know Culver City.
Mm-hmm. Used to drive through it, leaving the airport.
Her body was dumped in an alley, and she was semi-clothed, and she had also been strangled. There was another body of a woman named Terry Miles, who was 33, and she was also found in Culver City, and she had been raped and strangled as well. And her body was also found partially clothed in a parking lot. Then on November of 1993, Michael murders a woman named Jamie Harrington, who was 29. Now, during this whole time, like this whole scenario, again, Michael is traveling. First of all, in the beginning, he's traveling through different cities. He ends up in Los Angeles. He's living on the streets. But as the years go on, Michael gets some jobs and he does random shit. Well, he ends up getting a job as a security guard.
That makes sense.
Okay. And he ends up attracting the attention of the police because somebody calls the police and says, I see this guy. He is pushing a shopping cart through the downtown streets here in Culver City. He's wearing a security uniform and he looks like he works for whatever the places that he worked for security. And they said, he just looks weird. It's very strange. So the police were like, okay, we'll go check it out. So the police show up and Michael runs. Okay, so he's no longer with this cart and Michael runs. Now the cart that they find contains the body of Jamie Harrington. They found this cart in the parking lot with Jamie Harrington's body in it, tied to the cart because he was transporting
pushing
her.
it through the fucking streets.
Pushing it through the streets into a parking lot where the theory is he was going to drop the body.
Right.
So basically he loaded her body into the shopping cart and was going to wheel it into a parking lot and leave the body. Or maybe that is what he actually did because they found the shopping cart in the parking lot and he was not there. So he dropped it and ran, whether it's because police were coming or he had made it to his destination because he pretty much left them in alleys and parking lots anyways. And again, her body was tied to the shopping cart.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to tie her
if he was going
to then untie her and dump her out. I think he was just pushing to drop her.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So on November 14th of 1993, police take the shopping cart and they start dusting it for fingerprints and stuff. And they end up finding fingerprints that match Michael's. And this officially connects him to the murder of Jamie. So now, because they're now like, bruh, why were your fingerprints on the shopping cart? Especially because he wasn't a security guard for the area that the shopping cart came from. So it wasn't there's no reason his fingerprints should have been on the shopping cart. Because of his fingerprints, they also are actually able to connect him to the murders of Terry Miles, Teresa Ballard, and Brenda Bradley as well. Because for whatever reason, he left fingerprints at the scene of the crime for those.
Body, clothes, whatever.
Now, December of 1993, he is officially arrested for the murders of Jamie, Terry, Teresa, and Brenda. For some reason, though, it takes 5 years for him to even go to trial. He does end up getting convicted for the murder of all 4 women, and he is given a life sentence without parole. Now, on July 3rd of 2008, so this is how current we are with this. I mean, not that that's current, but it's still fucking fairly current. Michael is actually brought up on even more charges. They were able to link him to 4 more murders. They were able to link him to the murder of Yvonne Coleman, Verna Williams, Deborah Jackson, and Deanna Wilson. And they were able to link him through DNA profiles taken from the victims for these people, right? However, the case of Deanna Wilson does get dropped. But they still use Deanna because I don't think they had DNA linking him to Deanna Wilson, right? So they dropped the charges for Deanna Wilson's murder. However, they did use her murder to still establish a pattern of Michael Hughes. So they literally went into this thing and said, we found these 3 people who we know he killed because of his DNA. But see, there's this other woman that he didn't leave DNA, but if you notice, they're all the same. Yeah. So we want you to understand that we know he killed her, but we're not going to charge him with it. But look at all the things that he's done. The previous 4 women, now we've got these 4 women, and they're all the same. So in November of 2011, Michael is convicted of those murders as well. And for those ones, he is actually sentenced to death. Now, as one would expect, he does appeal his sentences. He files a motion to reduce his sentence. He basically wants
And what year is this? 2008?
2011.
Or 2011? I'm just trying to, because California goes back and forth with the death sentence, so I was just kind of figuring out, like, are they on or off during this time?
The death sentence was repealed, or I'm sorry, a moratorium was put on the death sentence in either 2018 or 2019. So during this time, death penalty was still on the table. So in 2011, he does his appeal, or he gets convicted, and then he starts to do his appeals. And what he's asking for is he wants to get life without parole. So no death penalty. He wants to just have life in prison. Now he tries to use what he deemed as upsetting events from his childhood as an excuse. So he's basically saying, like, listen, I grew up in a rough ass household. If it wasn't for my fucking household, I may not have been a killer. Now, he did say that he was that his childhood abuse is what pushed him. That because he was beaten as a child and because he watched his mother give his sister an abortion, this is what drove him to murder. Side note, real quick, that would fuck anyone up. I'm not going to
No
discount.
doubt. That would fuck
I will definitely
anybody up.
Yeah, I will not discount that. That would fuck anybody up. However, it is not an excuse to murder people.
No.
It is not an excuse to take your fucking anger out on women because your mom was a piece of shit. Never will it be an excuse. So do you deserve the death penalty? Sure, if that's what they decided, because you willingly, knowingly murdered these women. And you know it because you're saying, well, I did it because I was angry because I was beat as a child. That tells me you knew what you were doing was wrong.
Yeah, if you were angry and you knew all this stuff, then you should have tried to figure out
Get help.
Yeah.
Right? So you could have, there were so many other options that you could have done, and you chose that one. Especially because he, as a child, again, if you remember, he was admitted into hospitals multiple times for nervous breakdowns. So he knew where he could go if he needed help, if he was having like intrusive thoughts or bad ideas. So while it might explain what triggered him, it is not an excuse to get off with just having life in prison.
Right.
If your sentence is death, your sentence is death. And life in prison, you don't get to go, oh, well, I want to be in life in prison because I was abused as a child. No. The only time I ever feel like somebody might have a chance of getting their sentence overturned in doing life is if you didn't really understand what you were doing was wrong. I feel like that's a way that I don't think somebody who doesn't know right from wrong should be killed, because that's a real thing. I also think that if it's somebody who shows extreme remorse and maybe doesn't understand why they did these things, sure, I could see life in prison for people like that. But this guy's not saying that. He's blatantly saying, like, yeah, I did it. And I did it because I was angry because I was abused as a child. Well, now you've given an excuse, and we don't excuse bad behavior for the shit life you had. Sorry. Your mom was terrible. What you went through was terrible. But you know how many people go through terrible shit and end up just fine? We can't keep using this shit as an excuse.
I wouldn't say just fine, but they ain't killing people.
No, there are quite a few people who turn out to be miraculous individuals from some of the most horrific lifestyles because they did the right shit to make it better. So he does all this, is trying to appeal it, and the request for a reduced sentence is denied. So he does not get to do that. Now, Michael is currently sitting on death row at San Quentin State Prison, and because of the moratorium, this is the thing that makes me mad about the moratorium. I don't really like Gavin Newsom anyway, so that already just bothers me. It just bothers me. However, if you're going to put a moratorium on the death penalty, which is not the same as repealing it. Moratorium is when you're pausing it. Pausing the death penalty until we can get around to deciding.
An indefinite pause.
First of all, just fucking repeal it. First of all, Gavin, if you hate the death penalty like you say you do, just fucking put in the fucking shit to repeal it. We've done that in Washington State. We don't have the death penalty anymore because Governor Inslee back in the day repealed it. So fucking repeal it. To me, when you put a moratorium, it tells me that you're not really sure how you feel, and why I think that is because I think certain politicians will swing their ideas one way or the other based on what public opinion wants, right?
Voters.
So if a public opinion is we want death penalty, then he'll reinstate it. But if public opinion in California is we don't want death penalty, he wants it in a moratorium. Just fucking repeal it if you don't like it. Like, stand your ground, buddy. Like, pick a side and fucking stand on business. That's what you got to do. But the other part of it is when you put a moratorium in, these people who are on death row, they have to stay on death row. They don't get moved to like Gen Pop. They stay in the death row wing in San Quentin, which yuck. San Quentin's an old ass prison. We saw it. We drove past it. It is an old ass building, and I can guarantee you it is infested with fucking at least bugs. And the death row area is the worst of the worst areas to stay. So you are punishing these people to quote unquote death, but actually you're really truly putting them in a torturous situation, which I don't agree with. I don't give a fuck if you are on death row or not. You still should have the rights to basic fucking like human services. And you don't get that when you're on death row. And so that's why I have a problem with the moratorium, because if you're going to have a moratorium, they don't get to leave death row. They have to still stay in death row. They don't go to Gen Pop. They don't get to go into different cell blocks. They live in death row, which was never, ever, ever meant for people to live a long time on death row. The people who live 20 years on death row, it's fucking torturous, because death row is not made for people to live there. It's made for people to temporarily stay there until they get their death sentence, which was never meant to be a 20-year thing. And so this guy, and I'm not, and I know I sound like I'm defending him. I'm not. This guy has a death sentence. He was given a death penalty in 2011. He was given a death penalty in 2011. We are in 2025. He has lived 14 years on death row. But when they put a moratorium in 2018 or whatever, 2019, he has now been living for 7 or 8 years on death row, knowing he's not going to be put to death. That's fucked up. So it bothers me, because they could literally just close down the death row area and redo that area to just be another set of prison cells, if that's really what you want to do. But stop with the moratorium. Just fucking shit or get off the pot.
Well, and I think, you know, in some prisons where you're sharing your cell with multiple people, I think in death row it's one.
You're by yourself.
Per
Yeah,
cell.
You're basically in solitary confinement. And while I feel like I could probably live in solitary confinement because I'm okay doing stuff by myself, not in those conditions. And mentally, it really does fuck people up. And as somebody who does care about mental health, I don't care how terrible of a person you are. Please hear me now. I don't care how terrible of a person you are. You do not deserve to be tortured mentally while you wait for your sentence. You don't. If you got to go to solitary because you did something bad, that's one thing. But living 20 fucking years or 15 years in basically solitary confinement, that is not okay for anybody. Humans were not meant to be like that. And that's now torture. And I don't believe in torturing people because they did bad things. I just don't believe in that. And so I'm just like, again, I don't care if he has the death penalty. I don't care. He's in prison for the rest of his life regardless. But if you're going to take the death penalty off the table, just take it off the table so these people can live their life in jail in a normal jail cell and not be tortured. And if they need to live by themselves because they're the worst of the worst, well, that's another scenario. But a lot of prisons that have those setups, they still have interaction with people. It's just very limited and it's very controlled. You don't just stick them in a cell for 23 hours a day and never talk to them and never, like, it's just, I don't know. To me, it's very torturous and I don't like it. And I know that sounds weird coming from me, who is a proponent of the death penalty. I just don't believe in torturing people. I don't believe that making somebody mentally suffer is the right way to handle a criminal, regardless of what their crime was. No matter how horrific it was, I don't think that that's okay. It's inhumane as fuck and I don't like it. So that's where this guy's at now. So he's sitting here living on death row, even though there is no death row for him and most likely never will be, but he'll never get to leave death row. He will die living in the cell on death row. I will get off my fucking soapbox because I could rant all day about this shit, because the prison, this podcast and Crime Bitches has made it very eye-opening to how awful our justice system and our court system is and how bad we need fucking reform. But anyways, I do have some shots.
Let's hear them.
I do have some shots. Okay. So Michael would typically dispose of the bodies in public places. Oftentimes they were naked and they were posed in a manner that would shock whoever found them. And that was something that they had talked about was basically like the woman in the stairwell. Can you imagine the horrified?
Yeah, and she probably just wasn't like on her side or he posed her.
He posed them. And I think they were sexually posed.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so can you imagine being a kid stumbling upon this lady at your school, dead and naked and sexually explicit? That would be fucking awful. And for anybody who found these people. Now, during the time that Michael was an active serial killer, there were at least 5 serial killers operating in the South Los Angeles area at that time. These fucking men.
Yeah, man, California.
They all swear to gosh. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Anyways. Majority of the people were women who were targeted during this time, and their bodies were oftentimes dumped in parks, vacant buildings, or alleys. And so it was really hard to tell which serial killer was responsible for what. They also,
as a serial killer, you're like, shit, I got to come up with my own MO. Yeah. This one's already taken.
Yeah, because these ones
already taken.
Well, and I do think at least a couple of them were doing all the same thing, strangling and raping. Right. And the other thing was majority of the women who were targeted were black women also. And so they were finding these women who all matched the same like victimology, the same MOs. And they're like, all right. So like when they arrest Michael, they're like, cool, we've got him for, these 30 people. And then he's like, yeah, I didn't do them. I just did them. And then when they look closer, they're like, oh shit, there's some differences here. Like his difference would be that he put them in sexually explicit poses, whereas other women were just found in parking lots naked, but not in sexually explicit poses. And so those probably weren't his victims. They were somebody else's victims. Verna Williams, who was one of Michael's victims that they said was Michael's victims. Okay. She was originally considered a victim of the Southside Slayer, which is Michael. So they were like, yeah, okay. But at that time, the Southside Slayer was unidentified. So they weren't like, oh, this is Michael's. They said, oh, this woman we found, we've identified her. Her name's Verna Williams. This is a Southside Slayer victim. Well, they later start realizing that there's a little bit of differences. And so then they start naming this. They have a name for this person that's got this MO called the Grim Sleeper. And then eventually they identify that she's actually killed by a man named Lonnie David Franklin Jr., who also is a serial killer in that time. Now, homicide detective Clifford Shepard had noted that during the time that the victims were dying, like all these victims were dying, it was during the height of the crack cocaine epidemic as well in LA, during which time they had actually clocked over 1,000 deaths in a year.
Damn, that's a lot.
And so only one of the victims from Michael's, only one out of his 8 was found to not have cocaine. So 7 of the 8 victims had cocaine in their systems. So in the beginning, it was like, oh, did they OD? Because again, they're strangled. So you're not, when you first get to that scene where they're dead, some of them were half naked, right? So they would look at them and think, did they OD? Right? Then they go through the medical examiners, find out that they end up being strangled. But so it was one of those things that a lot of the times originally was chalked up as like, oh, another one gone, so they weren't paying attention. Clifford Shepard said, and I quote, why this shit's so fucking small? And I can't read it because I'm a fucking idiot. I feel like an old ass woman right now because I got to read
Playing
a quote.
The trombone.
I gotta read a quote and I can't fucking see it. So Clifford Shepard said, it was almost an epidemic of women being found strangled and dumped who had cocaine in their systems. Some were being secretive. Many of them were being found on roadsides or in alleys. Now, it is believed that there is a very strong possibility that there are many more victims in other states, since Michael was in the Navy, first of all. So he traveled with the Navy. And also since he traveled through multiple cities in California, they are pretty certain that there are that there are victims out there that he most definitely had that will probably never be linked to him because they were probably linked as either a drug overdose or another serial killer or whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you were explaining it, like how he was traveling all over. I'm like, yeah, I feel like there's more out there.
Yeah. Well, and as it sits today, right now, between the times of 1984 to 2007, there are at least 53 victims that are for sure attributed to serial killers in LA. So 53
They're just not
people,
sure which one.
53 people. No, they are. They would be able to sit down. So they're able to sit down and say, for sure, there are 53 women who were killed in LA during that time by one of these 5 serial killers. 53 women. That's a lot. Yeah. I know it doesn't sound a lot over like a 20-year period because it's like a 23-year period, but that's more than one woman a year that is being killed by just some dude who wants to fucking kill.
Yep.
And so, and again, he had 8 of those for sure. 8 of them. So he had 8 and there were 5 other serial killers who were active at the same time. So between all of them during this time frame, 53 women for sure lost their lives. And they say, again, because of the time frames with the different drug epidemics and also a lot of the time serial killers focus on prostitutes, that number is most definitely higher, but they just don't have the proof. These are the proven cases of women or men who have been killed by a serial killer.
Well, and I feel like they had a department too that just was in charge of naming because they had so many serial killers. Because you got like the Southside slasher, the Grim Sleeper. Like,
I mean, shit, they had the Hillside Stranglers.
Right.
They had the fucking, the vampire fucking Slayer. They had... a lot.
Buffy, that was in Hollywood.
It wasn't Vampire Slayer. I can't remember what he was called, but he was something like, Night Stalker. Like they had and you're right, they all had their own name, but I almost wonder if they did that so they could
tell them apart.
Yeah, because they would have to find little pieces that would be like, okay, this is the work of.
Yeah, like serial killer number 1, serial killer number 2.
And I'm curious, and I'll have to someday maybe look into it, but it does make me wonder if LA is LA the only, and by the way, it's not California.
Yeah,
Make
LA.
this clear. It is Los Angeles. So it's not even a whole, I'm saying this is literally Los Angeles. So this is a city in California that had 5 active serial killers at one point. I wonder if there's any other cities that have, seriously. LA is big, so I understand that. But the fact that these 5 active serial killers were in South LA, I think actually from what I had read, LA at one point had like 8 serial killers altogether in all of LA. So what the fuck? What brought people to LA to just start murdering people? I understand that it's a big city, but
the
damn.
drugs, the
but like I'm thinking
the
like
entertainment, Hollywood.
In my thought, I'm thinking you've got New York, you've got Chicago, you've got other cities that are also really full of people, and I'm curious if any of them ever had that kind of serial killer stats of having multiple serial killers at once.
I think we should look into it and report back on the next podcast.
I do too. Well, we'll see. I don't know because I got so many other things that I got to be doing. But that's all I have to tell you today. It was a long, it was a short, it was a short serial killer, but kind of a long episode because we talked about Jay's trip and stuff. So if you like what you hear and if you are a fan, please make sure you're following us. If you're not following us and you like us, please make sure you click that follow button because it'll let you know every Thursday when our podcast comes out.
Yo.
And other than that, I don't have anything else to say other than thank you for listening to us talk about the Southside Slayer. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.